Good afternoon, everybody, or morning, evening, or wherever you are. My name is Mark. I'm going to be presenting this webinar. I would be very grateful if somebody could just post a comment just to say that you can hear me loud and clear. Then at least I know everything is good and we're good to go. Okay. As you know, we're presenting on the level assignment 5, assignment A, which is the first one that you will do. And thanks for letting me know you can hear me okay. Always good to know. We're going to be going through that, which is, as I said, the first one that you will do. Where it's a bit of a tricky one actually for me today, because we're just changing the templates and some of the demands have been changed ever so slightly. They have been simplified. If you're using the old one, it makes no difference. We just mark you a little bit more easily on the old one than we will be on the new one. So I will refer in general to the new one. Some of the things might be slightly changed. If I'm referring to the old template, I will let you know. Okay, so my name's Mark. As I think I said, I've been a teacher for 33 years now, man and boy. I won't tell you all whatever I've been up to. I'll just give you the format here. It's going to be about 30 minutes, and then after that, we've got as long as we need for any questions. So obviously, put any questions that you wish in the comment section. I try to keep them relevant. So obviously, if you want to know about assignment B, assignment C, anything else, jobs or whatever else, please leave them for another day. Last thing, just notice somebody's from Birmingham. I'm not far down the road from you. I'm in Cheltenham, so about 30 miles away from you, I think, on a very gloomy Saturday afternoon here. Okay, then. So we'll be looking at, just so you have an idea, what the assignment is going to be assessing and the structure of a skills lesson. I will ask you to bear this in mind. It's a skills lesson, not a systems lesson where you study structures, say the past perfect or the present simple or whatever. A skills lesson, and obviously the skill here was going to be reading. It could just as easily be listening. So we'll look at the structure of a skills lesson. We'll look at the structure of an assignment and watch what each text of the three will entail. Okay, and what it's going to be looking at, and this is on your slide, is your ability to select and teach level appropriate vocabulary, and that is in task 1, which again we'll be looking at all of these in detail. Task 2, with a separate text, the ability to create reading tasks for stages 3 and 4. So that we'll look at the different demands of those two texts. And finally, the ability to create the speaking tasks that will come after the reading tasks to allow them to communicate and to use the language. And that will be in the third text. So you'll see there is a structure throughout. And I would like to try to keep to bear that in mind if you could throughout the webinar, that what we're looking at is basically different sections of different lesson plans, obviously because they have different students, different levels, and of course different reading tasks as well. Okay, right, let's move on. I can't really do much with this particular slide except repeat what it says on there. The instructions are so important, and the biggest reasons that we have for asking people to resubmit are not reading the instructions carefully. And that is also linked to making sure you can download the templates. The reason the templates are so important, and I will repeat this at the end because it's so important to say it, is it allows you to make sure that you've got all the information that you need in there and that you're not including information that you don't need. It's not terrible to include information that's unnecessary. It makes our jobs as markers much harder, but we'll try to work our way through it. But for you, it's simply wasted effort. If you use the template, you can see exactly what you need to give that and no more. And of course, following the requisite word counts and such like. Okay. The templates are in Microsoft Word. If you don't have that, there's always free options for you to explore: LibreOffice, OpenOffice, Google Docs, and do ask tutor support if you've got any problems on this one. We don't want anybody failing because of simple technical issues, and tutor support will do everything they can to help you out on that as well. That should never be an obstacle for anybody to completion of any of the assignments. Okay. We're going to look at, first of all, the structure of the reading lesson, and this will help you to understand the structure of the assignment as well. Now, the first thing about this, that's how you do a reading lesson, as you can see ahead of you. The lead-in and the warmer, the first part, is something that we don't deal with in this assignment because of the way that the different texts, I should say, cover the second bullet point, then the third and fourth bullet point, and then the fifth bullet point. Just to give you an idea of what I mean by a lead-in, you may well know the texts by now. So, for instance, the first one being the text fortnight, which for people above a certain age still means 2 weeks. So maybe to have a lead-in to something like fortnight, you might talk to the students about games and what video games they like. The second one, which is a European honeybee, you might have pictures of insects and see where that leads with certain questions. And the third one, which is the 20th century dad, about a stay-at-home father, you might have a picture of a dad washing up and see what conversation you can elicit from that. That's the lead-in. I'm just letting you know what it is, but you don't need to do it for the assignment. You will need to do it in your lessons in the future, of course. Okay, so that's, sorry, I'm trying to move this one. So therefore, we have the 3 texts, and we will have a look at we won't be looking at the texts themselves because they are on your templates, of course, but I will be referring to them. And it's good to try to get it fixed in your head as to what those different texts are, what they do, and also, very, very importantly, what the levels are of those 3 texts. So you're being asked to plan different stages of a reading lesson, each stage being based on a different text, and each stage designed for a different group of students. Okay, so I think now we go into the first one. First one is as I said, the fortnight text. First thing to remember about it, it is a lower intermediate text, and that is going to inform your choices that you make on this. The text itself is not particularly difficult. You are expected, and again, this is a difference in the old templates. It was 10 items, and some of you might be familiar with that. If you're taking the new template, it's only 6 items, and you need to select the right ones. So think about this. They're a lower intermediate class. You need to pick 6 or 10 items that are going to help them to understand that text. Think about the words or very importantly, the phrases. So two words as well, strong collocations within that. Think about the words that will help them to understand. I'll just give you examples. You don't come out with, say, game. They're lower intermediate students. They know the word game. If you try to teach game, then you've lost the opportunity to teach a lot of other things that you could do that are going to be more benefit to them to actually understand the text. So remember that the words that you're trying to teach are going to be, pretty high. The ones that are on the edge of their understanding. They're not going to be completely above their understanding because it's a lower intermediate text, but ones that will help them here. Okay. Of the words that you choose, think about how, sorry, I'm kind of repeating myself here, but think about how they help people to understand the text as a whole. There is an idea of the facilitation here. Okay, right. In this, again, in the old text, you have to give an explanation of sort of how you're going to elicit and then concept check. That comes out of the new text, but it does get dealt with lower down, which you will see which we'll talk about in a second. Okay, because the second part here is the teacher language for 2 items, and that means that you take 2 of the items that you've used, and there's a template for this. There's a teacher. You take 2 of the items that you have taught in your language chart, and you need to show in the form of a dialogue how you elicit, how you check for pronunciation, and how you also concept check. Just to go through those, this is a big thing, maybe not so much nowadays in the test, but such a big thing when you are a teacher in classes, elicitation versus concept checking. And I do entire webinars on this, just to give you the simple difference. To elicit means they don't know the word, or most of them don't know the word. You are trying to get somebody to come up with the word or the phrase that you're looking for. So you're saying, okay, what's this thing? This is something. Now you might use a picture for that. And I'm going to give you an example here. So you maybe hold up a couple of pictures, or they're on the board. You've got a picture of Taylor Swift. You've got a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio. Okay, and then a picture of Lionel Messi. Okay, what do you call these people? Because they're really famous, aren't they? So what's the word that we use for a famous person? And then eventually you're trying to come up with the word celebrity. Somebody comes up with the word celebrity. That's great. That's good. You've got the word celebrity. But maybe only one person in the class has come up with that word. So how are you going to make sure that everybody understands it? Elicitation is when you get them to come up with the word. After that, you need to concept check. So the concept check, on the other hand, is you have the word and you're saying, okay, can somebody give me some more examples of a celebrity? And if other people from the class start saying, I don't know, The Rock or whoever, then great, you've got it. We've concept checked. You understand the concept of celebrity. Pronunciation, the main one that we always look for here is the stress. We're not looking to break down into the minutiae. You have to give a transcription using the IPA, a transcription of the actual word, but that's as far as it goes. For the pronunciation, what we really look for is what we call the macro element of it, which is the stress. What's the stress? Where is the stress syllable? And you will see that on the new template, you're given an example of this where you use, say, again, using celebrity, it's little o, big O, celebrity. So small o, big O, small o, small o. When you do this, we want to see the dialogue, so it must be in direct speech. We don't want you saying, well, I will say this to the students, I will tell the students that. We just want the direct dialogue, including what the students have to say. Okay, so in the new template, you only have to do that distinction between eliciting and concept checking for the 2 words in the template that comes, well, it's the same template, but in the slight chart that comes below. It's all made very clear in there. Please use the template itself. Okay, moving on. When it comes to the table itself, please fill in all the categories. That's much easier now than it was. Please adhere to the word limits. And again, direct speech for your concept questions, for your dialogues. That's all pretty straightforward, and like I say, the template makes it pretty easy. But this is, if you're using the old one, these matters still apply very much. Okay. Oops, sorry, I think I've just jumped on one. The second text is an upper intermediate text. And that, of course, affects the language that you will use. The second text is called The European Honeybee. It's an interesting text, actually, quite scary, about the environmental consequences of a loss of the European honeybee. What we need to look at here is the way that this focuses on stages 3 and 4. Just so we're clear, stage 1, the warm-up, the warmer, the lead-in that we don't deal with. Stage 2, which you have dealt with in the previous text, which is pre-teaching the vocabulary, and then stage 3, when you actually present them with the task, and then ask them to read it. Okay, when you read a task, sorry, I'll try that one again. When you read a text, they need a task. They will read it twice. They will have 2 tasks. The first task is a pretty simple one. You're asking them 2 or 3 questions. Those questions are simply to check their basic understanding. And we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the divisions on that. The second text will be more challenging, and it will be a greater number. In the new template, this is 8 questions, and it's set down in the template 1 to 8. Okay. So in the first reading, this will be, I'll just go on to this. This will be 2 questions, 1 skimming and 1 scanning. Skimming and scanning is, again, not huge in the assignment, but it's a big thing for you to learn about when in your teaching. I'll give you examples of this. Skimming would be something like, what is the author concerned about? That would be a skimming question, because it's asking about the general meaning of the text. A scanning question would be going in and picking a specific piece of information out from the text. So that would be more like, okay, what percentage of bees are solitary bees, which is something that comes up in the text. So skimming, general understanding; scanning, picking out one piece of information. In the old template, you can use either skimming or scanning. In the new template, you're asked to use 1 skim, 1 scan, which I think is a better challenge. Moving on to task 2, the deeper understanding. So you need to avoid scanning questions, as it says here in the second reading. The reason it says avoiding scanning questions and not skimming questions is that skimming questions can quite often sort of shade into more deeper understanding anyway, so it's hard to sort of draw the actual distinction. But you don't use scanning questions where you pick out a particular piece of information that you can pick up from one particular sentence, or even a few words from a sentence within the text. I'm trying to think of examples of this. Maybe a good example of a deeper understanding would be, how does a decline in the number of the honeybee and the number of honeybees have consequences for humanity? Which, if you read the text and you realize, to do with pollination and the crops, etc., etc. So it's a great question, because you're going a little bit deeper. You're sort of reading between the lines, but not too much. The common mistake that we get here is that people ask for things that are outside the text. I noticed that one quite a lot. So they start talking about the construction of a hive or something like that. Well, hang on, that's not in the text. On the other hand, you can ask about things that might be listed throughout the text, and they're not factual information. So, instance, what could you do to, halt the decline, or what could humanity do to halt the decline of the bee population? That's okay, because there are reasons in there. You see, there are the reasons in the text that say this is why the honeybee is declining in numbers. So if you can come up with things that say, oh, actually, if we don't do this or if we don't do that, then hopefully the numbers will go back up again. That's quite involved. But if you can come up with a simple question that's based around that, then that's a brilliant deeper understanding, reading between the lines, asking for intensive reading. Okay. Let me think. I'll just go on and do a little bit more about this as well. You need to always make sure that the questions are set before they start reading. Don't ever give them a text, say, read that. Okay, now here are the questions. They always need to have the task in mind as they are reading. They are always reading for a specific reason. So that's a big one to remember for this. Okay. And then the final one here we've got is text 3. And text 3, it's a funny one. It's the elementary text, the 20th century dance. So it's the simplest text, but it is very much it's the one that trips people up the most, I would say. I'll give you an idea of the common mistakes, but first of all, if I tell you a little bit about what the actual demands are of the task. So the demands are sort of fairly straightforward. You have to set up two communicative tasks, each one lasting 10 minutes, total of 20 minutes. And on the template, you'll see you also need to give a justification. And below that, you also come up with a bibliography and the materials. And materials are very common, particularly because it's elementary. Because it's elementary, it's often useful to have simple images, for instance, there to help them converse. But on the other hand, because it's elementary, it's very, very difficult to get them speaking. And it's very easy, as many people find out, it's very easy to set tasks that are too difficult for them, or tasks that are too controlled. So they actually become lexis or comprehension. Very difficult to hit that sweet spot where you're actually getting elementary students to express themselves. But if you remember a few things, it becomes much, much simpler. So the parts that I would really suggest that you work on are the idea of finding what the target language is. And the target language is kind of three things. It's two things, but with a third. The two things that are important are adverbs of frequency. Now that means sometimes, always, never, usually, occasionally, whatever they may be, because it's a man describing his day. And the other one is daily routines. So that's a simple one, get up, brush my teeth, get dressed, walk the dog, whatever it may be. So those are the two. You need to use them within the present simple because it's an elementary class. Another common mistake that is made is that people start talking about the past. What did you do when you were a kid? Where did you play when you were a child? No, they're elementary. They haven't necessarily done that. So you need them to go with just the present simple. So how do you design tasks that fit those particular ones? First thing, keep it simple. Second thing, don't base it on the text. What a lot of people do is they start asking questions about the text. And of course, the text, they've answered questions on the text in parts 3 and 4, which you did in your previous task, in task 2, the European honeybee. That's where you set the reading tasks. You do not need reading tasks anymore. You need communicative tasks using the language that they have learned. And the language that they have learned in the text is adverbs of frequency and daily routines. So you have to think about that. The best way of doing this, I don't know how much I'm giving you here, it might be inside information, but hey ho, take it as you will. The best way of doing this for elementary students, get them to talk about their own lives. That's the one thing where they are a subject matter expert. Get them to talk about their own lives. Then you've got lots and lots to do. I would say that probably pretty much covers this as well. Just remember, it comes after they have read the text, they've completed the comprehension tasks. They are no longer reading the text. They are no longer testing the comprehension. They don't need anything like that. They just need to come up with new language of their own, using the old language, but their own language, I should say. Also below that, so you'll see on the template, you've got the fill in your tasks on the lesson plan. They're two separate ones. Now, both of them have the teacher activity and the student activity. You also have to remember, as it says, timing and interaction. Interaction, I think they probably have examples on there, but interaction means obviously when you explain it, that will say be T to C, teacher speaking to class, and that's say 2 minutes of the 10 minute, it might be 1 minute, it's up to you. So that's the timing and that's the interaction, and that's obviously in the teacher activity. Then you've got maybe another 5 minutes when the students are actually talking to each other. So that'll be SS, student to student. And then obviously after that, you're going to have a feedback part. So that's going to be students talking back to the teacher. So ST or CT, class to teacher, if you prefer. So those are the interactions, and they all have timings. So it's important that you put those timings in there with those interactions. If you're not sure how to do the interaction, just say teacher to class or student to student or whatever. We will understand that. That obviously goes for both. Add as well, very importantly, and I will come back to this in a second. Also, make sure that you add images that you're going to use as well. So nothing to describe nothing, stick it all up there, and of course make sure that it is referenced successfully as well. This is obviously really important for everybody's sake. You are providing an academic document here, as it's expected to follow the protocols of academic protocols. Okay, so just moving on. This is just a little summing up of text 3: fluency, frequency, and as I said, frequency and daily routines through present perfect. Provide support, the images. Sentence stems is a good one. On Mondays, I usually get them to finish it off. It's not the best you can do because it's quite controlled, but it's a good way of starting a discussion. And below that, there is a space, there is a blank where you can say why you are using these tasks, and why you're using these tasks in particular, base it around their level and also around their age as well. There's reasons why these work very well in this specific instance. Okay, now we come to the generalities of it here. Note the level of each text and the students. This is a real big one. I do remember seeing in the element, and I've seen variations of this, but in the elementary text, and somebody asking a question, and this is kind of probably probably several put together, something along the lines of discuss why stay-at-home fathers are an antidote to 21st century toxic masculinity, or something like that. They're an elementary class. The questions that you have to ask, whether they're for a discussion or otherwise, have to be really, really simple questions. The same goes for the lower intermediate, and in fact, the same goes for the upper intermediate. I will point this one out. People often ask questions about the European honeybee that look like they're actually for a degree course of environmental biologists or something like that. When these are lay people, these are non-experts, they're upper intermediate level. Also, just because you ask a simple question doesn't mean it has to have a simple answer. So quite often, the simpler the question, even at upper intermediate level, the better, because it means that they're focusing on the text to answer it, rather than trying to decode the question in order to then come up with an answer. Simplicity is really, really useful here. Note the word limits. Nothing will test. Sorry, note the age of the students, as I mentioned before, especially for the elementary text, which is for a younger class. Note the word limits. Nothing tests markers' patience, like somebody writing 3 times as much. Because we are a kind-hearted bunch, we tend not to fail people for exceeding word limits, but there's no reason, and eventually you write a certain amount and then people don't read anymore. You're not doing yourself any good by adding more. Brevity is all. Use the templates for the reasons I said before, because that will help to ensure that you keep all the information that you need and you do not give extra information that you don't need or miss out information that you do need. And please save that final copy, first of all as a PDF for uploading, but save it for yourself as well. So important that if, first of all, it's a learning document for you, and if you were to resubmit, a resubmission comes through and it will say, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, you need to change this, this is fine, this is fine. So it's very useful for you, because you could say, okay, I've got the whole thing, I need to resubmit everything, I just need to change a little bit of that document and that document. That's normally the way that it comes out. So make sure that you've saved it in a way that as a PDF, but also as a Word document, so that you can simply resubmit the ones that you need to and amend the ones that you need to do the work on. Okay, we're getting there now. The stage of the reading lesson now, this I've mentioned, but it's really, really worthwhile pointing out again. By the way, I'm just coming towards the end of this now. My half hour is up, not that I mind going over by a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, please post them. I'll give you time at the end. Don't come straight off. I'm also going to drop in something for you to cut and paste that will allow you to go to a SurveyMonkey so you can give your feedback as well on this. So please feel free to put in questions anytime. Right. The teacher language, as I've mentioned, in particular for the first task, direct speech, we want to see a dialogue, and direct speech isn't just your speech, it's that of the student as well. What are the student responses, and how does that affect what you say next? If you've got questions, please ask tutor support. That's what they're there for. They're happy to help. I will also say, stay polite when you ask them. You might be frustrated. We understand that people do get frustrated when they can't see the wood for the trees on occasions, but tutor support are there to clarify things for you. And if you're polite, they'll bend over backwards to help you. I can promise you that. We can't preview files. This is quite a common one, in fact, that people say, oh, do you think this one is okay? We can't. You'll understand we can't do that because that simply favors one student over another, and that we can't do. I will just finally also reiterate, put all your photos up. Don't just post a link to an image that you're going to use. Please put the link in there. We don't want to be going through and trying to follow these up. All the materials, please put them. There are spaces for you to do so. Put that bibliography in there. It is nice to see several things in there. Some people just do the absolute minimum on this, and it's not a good look. And actually, don't just think about this as being something you need to put up for the marking or whatever else. It shows the reading. It shows your interest. And also, obviously, following it up properly and following the referencing protocols will be useful. In the first assignment, in assignment A, we let a few things go. By the second and third one, you're expected to do it. You're expected to have this spot on. Please proofread. It's not just out of compassion for your poor markers. It's also as academic. It's also part of a reflection of the quality of your work. Now, this last part is part of the change that we're going through from the 2nd of December plagiarism and AI detection program. This is all explained for you very clearly in the course materials. It's a new thing for us as well, so there may be difficulties, there may be things to overcome. Please go to tutor support about this. Nobody's going to get failed on this unless they have plagiarized, of course. And it has been a big thing for us, and it's a big thing across the whole of academia now. I can promise you it's a major issue throughout. So we need to act on this, and this is the way to do it. And it's also a guarantee of the good quality of your work. If everybody plagiarizes, if plagiarism becomes too common, then your own work is devalued as well. So this is for your benefit as well as for our benefit. It means that you come out of this and go, no, this is my own work. I've done this. This is me, and I am capable and ready to become a teacher in my own right. So it is very much for you as well, although I know that sounds a little bit mawkish. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick look through. No questions as yet, but I would very much appreciate them. I am now going to put up the SurveyMonkey. I'm just sticking it on there now, and then I will put it up for you. Okay, so I'll pop that up there. I will put that back up again if necessary. But if there are any questions at the moment, I have to say quite often you, as I'm writing, there's 100 questions coming up, but at the moment you've been remarkably restrained. Anyway, I'll give that a little while longer. Be very happy to deal with any questions. And I'm just having a look back through to see if there's anything that I think I have missed, but I cannot see it for the moment. Good question here. What would be the typical time it takes to complete the first assignment? That's I'm afraid I sound a bit like a man who comes to mend your guttering or something like that, and you ask them how long, and they say how long is a piece of string. It shouldn't be a huge amount of time. It's not. It shouldn't be a huge amount of time, but I would say 6 to 8 hours. There may be something on the course materials about this, but I cannot recall it. I would say both. I would say two things. I would say if you're being bogged down, then really, really be careful about where you're going on this. If it's taking you 20, 30 hours, then you're going wrong somewhere. It shouldn't take you that long. On the other hand, if you knock the whole thing out in 30 minutes, well, that's quicker than I could manage it, and I think I know it pretty well. So yeah, I would say between 6 and 8 hours. But in the end, really, apart from with the exception of the dialogue, you're only really doing what you might do in a normal lesson plan, hopefully not in a language school where they don't expect the same things. Okay, oh blimey, it says please include the QR code. I will do my best to do that. I'll see what I can manage with that. So yeah, I would say 6 to 8 hours. If you do it more quickly than that, don't take fright at the fact. The purpose of the bibliography. Sorry, I'll just put that. Oh, in fact, I'll go for that one. Interesting question. No, the same marker does not grade all the assignments of a student. They get the assignments are sent out individually. So one may get one may get several from the same person. Okay. Right. The purpose of bibliography in the assignment is to show proof of reading, that you've informed yourself outside of simply the course material. I honestly think it's sort of proof of interest as well. It's this teaching you'd hope is going to be vocational. We have, you've got different forms of motivation for this, intrinsic and extrinsic, but we would hope that there's always some form of intrinsic motivation. This is something where a teacher develops as they become. Also, like I say, from the down the line, this is what's expected. It's an academic. You are submitting an academic document. An academic document is expected to show evidence of independent research. So I would say that kind of covers it. Right. You can use AI to make that would not be a problem to use AI, but I would say, yeah, I mean, there's a million pictures out there for anything you need, particularly in the fact that if you're looking, the reasons why you need pictures is generally for the first assignment where you're looking at images that will illustrate the vocabulary points that you're making. You don't need a picture for everything, because you need to show a variety of ways of eliciting a specific word or phrase, a piece of vocabulary. And some of them will lend themselves to an image. Therefore, you should have plentiful images. In the last text, I would suggest that, yeah, it's a great idea to use images, because the most obvious that you're going to use them for is daily routines, and so little cartoons of people getting up, going downstairs, having breakfast, walking the dog, going to work, getting off the bus, whatever it may be, are so simple to come up with. So I wouldn't have any problems with. I wouldn't have any problems with that at all, really. Um, more or less cover that one. I'm having a very quick look now to see if I can find the text, but I'm afraid I can't. I'll do my best to see if I can find the QR code as well. Okay. Right. Any other questions? If not, I will take a very quick moment to see if I can turn up the QR code, and I'll see what I can do with that. Unfortunately, I'm on a different computer today to my normal one, which started to overheat. Okay, a couple more questions for you. Let's have a look at this one. Will we need to target different levels? Yes, very much so. The first one is the first one I think is an adult class, but it's lower intermediate. The second one, upper intermediate, and the third one, elementary. And the language with which you address the class is obviously going to be different for each of those. Up for some reason or other. I'm going to try this one again. Okay, there we go. Can you have too long a bibliography? Well, yes, you can, because if you've got a bibliography of 150 different works, then you're kind of using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. The minimum is 3. So I would suggest that 5 or 6 would show evidence of healthy interest. You're not going to lose anything if you just put in 3, but it's really about the nature of the test. The assignment itself. Are you doing this for you just to get a pass, just so you can go off and follow the next stage of your life, or are you actually interested in becoming a better teacher? Which is, trust me, a far healthier way of looking at it. Even if you don't want to be a teacher for the rest of your life, may only be for a year or two while you're doing something else. But the better teacher you are, or the more interest you show in improving yourself as a teacher, then trust me, the more enjoyable your career, short or long, as a teacher will be. But this is, like I say, this is for you, not for us. As far as we're concerned, the basis is the basic requirement is 3. Okay, I think we've reached an end there. I'm very sorry that I can't include the QR code as I've been asked to do. I will try to. I will do my very best to see if I can come up with that, and we might be able to put it in something, some information later. Thank you all very much. I'm going to hang on for another 5 seconds in case anybody else has got a question, but it doesn't look like it. So that being the case, I will in fact just post up again a second time. Hopefully this will work. I'll link it up again. It's very, very slow for some reason or other. Okay, I'm going to just put that up and show. I'm going to have that up, but while I've got that up, I do have another question here, for which thank you. Can you use websites like the British Council to research what you need rather than plowing through a load of books? Yes, you have the great fortune, unlike when I was training, not to need a library. Yeah, websites like the British Council are absolutely brilliant, and there's plenty of other ones as well, which will help you both with material. Maybe you won't use the material, but you can use it as examples of what's required. And the British Council is a great resource. And there are many others out there. So yes, make use of it, and again, add it to your bibliography as well. Yeah, this is, I think, my last one today. It's so annoying that I'm clicking on things and they're coming up extremely slowly. The question I've got here is, will we get the specific details of assignments after completing Unit 5? Yes, that's the way it works. Everything is released after after you've completed Unit 5. So if you haven't got anywhere near Unit 5 and you're a week or two off it yet, first of all, you'll be taking the new template. Secondly, I hope you've made some notes, because obviously then what I've been talking about should be a great deal clearer. Last thing, just academically, this question, and a very good question it is, about using the British Council. Do remember, if you do go through a load of books, really be specific about what you do. Don't try reading books start to finish. Most English teaching books, and I've got examples of them here, like this great book, if you get a chance, Learning Teaching by Jim Scrivener. One I hold up and show to people quite often, is a book for you to pick up, have a look at a chapter at the very most, and then put away again until you need it the second time. Use them as reference books. Don't try to read things start to finish. Okay, thank you very much. I think we're finished here. Much appreciated, and best of luck. And I expect to see some of your names cropping up on my Marcus platform very shortly. So I hope this has been a benefit to you. Okay, have a good end of day, or have a good day if it's depending on what time it is with you. Okay, many thanks.